What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Matt, and today we have a bit of a special episode of the Z-List Cars. We are out here in beautiful Lake James with a 2015 Lexus GX460, and it happens to be my Lexus GX460. There's a bunch of wonderful reviews that go very in-depth to all the details about the 460s all over YouTube. So today, this isn't really going to be exactly one of those. This is more going to be a summary of my personal pros and cons of GX460 ownership. What I like about it, what I don't like about it. And I'm not going to go into too much depth today. There's a lot of detailed stuff online, but for those who don't know, this is a lot more luxurious though than the Land Cruiser Prado overseas, which is used to traverse some really tough terrain in Africa and all over Europe and the Middle East. And so these do have some serious off-road credentials. Center locking differentials, crawl control on some models, fully adjustable suspension on some models. Overseas, the Land Cruiser Prado is sort of a basic cloth interior, possibly vinyl or pleather, interior sort of diesel V6s, whereas this is a 8-cylinder leather and wood lined Lexus luxury SUV. So I'll go into a couple reasons why I got this real quick from somebody who used to have sporty BMWs, powerful sedans and coupes, a twin turbo Audi wagon, 8-cylinder American cars. I wanted something that could really handle my off-road needs when it came to getting to fly fishing and hiking spots. So that's why we're doing this special today. I'm going to demonstrate a little bit. Today is sort of a hiking day, and I'll show you on a bit of a tough road, a little footage of what it can do, nothing in depth. This isn't going to be any rock crawling or anything, but I'm going to get some cool footage of a cool area we're in today, which demonstrates sort of the purposes that I got this for, and go over some pros and cons of ownership. I tend to think of the styling of the GX460 as a pro. I don't think it's a beautiful SUV by any measure of the word, but I do think that the design is overall pretty proper for an off-road Lexus luxury SUV without any sort of sporting intentions at all. The side swinging tailgate is something that gets a lot of people on these, and the reason that they have that, which I'll demonstrate in just a moment here, is because overseas, as I mentioned, this is a Land Cruiser Prado, and it's really used in some pretty rugged locations, and it has a full-size spare mounted on the back. So the weight of a traditional liftgate couldn't handle that as well, so they did have the side swinging that has a pretty serious shock if you're ever, sort of parking on an incline or something. You can lock it or unlock it as well, of course. As you see, the third row really leaves like no space behind it. I just have a cargo net, and there's just a little bit here. You sort of pull this little strap here to get the headrest down, and then you can just fold the third row down pretty easy. When you have the third row down, it does have pretty good space. So I'd say space is a pro if this is being used as a 2-row SUV. If this is really being used as a 3-row, as you can see, this really is not a champion on the space front. One cool thing though is that the glass in the rear does open. So if you just go ahead and press the little button in the corner here, you can load and unload stuff from the glass back here. This same design has been around since 2010. I had my 18-inch stock wheels painted gloss black and powder coated. I think I'd like to black out some of the chrome trim on the door handles, possibly the grille and the Lexus badging eventually, since there's a lot of chrome that contrasts with my black wheels now a little bit. But I think the black wheels, the tinted windows, it kind of works on this Nebula Gray Pearl. And this, in 2014, had a major facelift where it got the spindle grille and it got these double beam projectors with LED sort of check mark lighting here, as you see. And I think it looks really good. Like I said, I think this really looks like a proper modern Lexus SUV. Excuse my sort of dirty interior, but this interior is nicely designed. It is very dated though, even by 2010 standards. I think when it came out it was nice, but 2015 standards, it definitely is dated, but no flowing lines really. Everything's very sort of straight. Does have some nice materials though. Lexus's new Lux interior trim, which is their term for pleather, sort of adorns the dashboard. Some nice stitching, genuine mahogany wood, pretty soft touch materials on the dash, but just overall, a lot of this silver trim feels like really cheap and plastic, and you know, not the greatest. Just, I may be harsh, but a lot of the German competitors have, you know, some upgrades from this. But overall, it's a very nice place to be, and you know, the durability and reliability of these really make it worth it. You have heated rear seats back here, independent climate control on the premium. Mine does have blind spot detection, cross traffic alert in the rear. So, you know, equipment and everything, I'd say overall are a pro. The equipment you get, just the technology overall is not. I'd say a con is definitely the infotainment system. I'm not really going to get into demonstrating it too much because it takes too long, because it's sort of non-responsive. It feels honestly like a navigation and infotainment system from about 2008, and it works. I don't hate it. I can deal with it because I'm not a super techie person. I'm more about the feel of a car and comfort and everything and the drive, but that is one little downside. So we are going to get a little impressions on the road and on the interstate real quick before we hike up a mountain and do a little off-roading basically to get there, and hopefully I can show you guys some views of the top of a beautiful mountain looking into the Linville Gorge, in addition to beautiful Lake James here. So let's go. So one of the pros of the GX460 is definitely the ride quality. On the open road, on the interstate like I am now, it is a nice place to be. Only downside, the only con I would say in terms of interstate driving really in the GX is it has sort of a loose on-center feel compared to some of its competitors. And as I said, you know, I don't expect this truck to be sporty at all. It is a truck platform. It's an old school body-on-frame construction, but the steering rack feels very old school hydraulic compared to some of today's electronic steering racks or power steering systems, I should say. And it just, compared to something like a GLS 450 or a Q7 or an X5, which granted I believe are all unibody platform, you know, where the suspension and drivetrain and everything is bolted directly to the body, and this is, you know, body on frame, way different. They still have a very tight on-center feel and more precise steering rack than the GX, and occasionally, although it's overall secure and, you know, steering is not an issue on the highway by any means, it sort of wanders just a little bit to the point where you're correcting a little bit more than you should for a vehicle. Mine is a 2015, a vehicle that cost $60,000 in 2015. I just think the on-center kind of locked in steering feel, the sense of straight ahead could be a little better. But outside of that, the GX is very enjoyable for the long road trips, and it's a nice place to be on the interstate. Now, anyone who knows these Toyota trucks and SUVs and Lexus trucks and SUVs know that one of the huge draws for them is the reliability and durability. The first generation Lexus GX460 is really known to have a tremendous service life, and there's many examples with 400,000 plus miles out there. And that's really a similar theme known for most Lexus and Toyota vehicles of the last couple decades. And the GX460 is no exception. The engine, I believe it is called the 1UZ FE. I may be wrong on that, but it is essentially not a truck engine. It's put into this body-on-frame four-wheel drive truck, lifted from the LS460 sedan, in which it makes about 360 to 380 horsepower, depending on the years, from about 07 to 17 or so. But the downside, one of the cons for the GX460 is that unfortunately the direct fuel injection system that they use in the LS460 engine has been lifted out of this. So it makes about 301 horsepower and 329 pound-feet of torque, which is 60 to 80 horsepower less than the LS. But they did it with the interest of reliability, simplicity, and durability. Everything about these trucks are designed to run a long time. One of the cons I would say would be gas mileage, for sure. You know, keep in mind this is a 5,000 plus pound full-time four-wheel drive. body-on-frame SUV, and it has a 6-speed automatic and a 4.6-liter V8. So around town, just about no matter how you drive it, it's going to get about 15 miles per gallon. And on the highway, it does get about 20. So it does call for premium. Some people put regular in these naturally aspirated Toyota engines, and it's fine. I struggle. I kind of feel like if the engineers tell you to put premium, you should put premium, and I want to keep this for a really long time, so I do. So fuel costs are a con. Steering is pretty good. As I went over on highway feel, there's a couple little issues with on-center feel, but overall it feels, you know, a little slow. Again, this car has no sporting pretensions. That's why I mentioned the V8 making a little less power than it does in the LS sedan is not really a big deal. You know, you're not gonna be driving this thing fast on back roads, which I'm on now. I'm just kind of cruising. So reliability, durability, longevity is a huge pro in these, and you know, overall driving experience, even on a back road. I mean, handling is acceptable for what this vehicle is. But overall, it's sort of ponderous, and I think that's a good word. I read it, and I believe it was a Consumer Reports review of this, which was actually they scored this vehicle really high. You know, a lot of it had to do with quality and durability. But I think their description of the handling of the GX460 was ponderous, but ultimately secure. And I thought that was excellent, because that's well said. You know, the transmission is a smooth ASIN, I think that's how you say it, 6-speed unit, and shifting is really smooth. Overall refinement with this V8 is it's a slick powertrain. My only complaint, that's kind of the downfall of this thing in mountain driving, is it's programmed to try to eke the best fuel economy out of this platform. So it's programmed to upshift all the time and try to keep revs down. And this V8 does need to rev a little bit. It's still a V8, it's still got good torque, but it always wants to, even if you're going uphill, upshift and get you down below 2,000 RPM again. Thank goodness it does have a manual shift mode, which fixes the issue, but the transmission is too eager to upshift, and it doesn't have enough power when you're on a mountain road and you're in that situation, and you're at a low RPM. And that's a little bit of a frustration. I will say it sounds like I'm kind of giving a lot of cons here to the driving experience, and it's still a great truck in my opinion in many ways, but you just have to realize what it is also the brake pedal. It's a little too soft and spongy for most people. All right, here we go on to Wolf Pit Road. Now, this is a couple-mile road to get into one of my favorite hiking spots in the Linville Gorge area. It's become very popular over the years, but I've been happy to have the GX, and I used to have an M235i, and one time I had a rental car when I was getting some work done to it. No, I think I was a loaner, and I took it back here, and it was a sedan, and it sort of struggled to make it back here, but it was an amazing place. But I was like, with the M235, how low that was in the front, and the low profile, you know, Michelin Pilot Super Sport summer tires, I was absolutely not taking that thing back here. And I said, you know, it was the only car I've ever leased. I said, once this lease is up, I'm getting something that I'm gonna just keep for 10 to 15 years. It's gonna be reliable, it's gonna be comfortable, it's gonna be spacious, and it's gonna be able to get me back to places like this. And, you know, that was a big goal of mine, and that got me looking in the direction of these, and it really just effortlessly gets along. Now, I've seen certain areas like this, you see people that are pretty brave. I've seen people with Civics coming back here that are all scraped up and stuff. But you know, I think a lot of these mountain roads in the Appalachian, like the Blue Ridge and Smoky Mountains, that are pretty rough and unpaved and can get rutted with runoff and everything. I think it's best to have a little ground clearance and all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive at least. But anyways, the GX460 certainly shines on here, and I don't even have to put it in four-wheel drive low. What's up, guys? I'm hiking up the mountain right now, And it's become pretty clear that I've let myself get a little out of shape after having COVID and just being busy and not really out and about with a lot of bad weather, doing my normal outdoor routines. But this is fun. This is beautiful. Behind me, I don't know how well you can see, peak of Lake James, but I got a lot of work to do. So I will see you at the top. And there we go, guys. We are just about at the summit of the mountain I'm hiking today. And looking out at Lake James here is just wonderful. If you guys like what you see and you enjoyed this episode, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. Also hit that bell for notifications, like my videos, and don't forget to subscribe to me, or follow me I should say, on Instagram at the Z-List Cars, where I do post some previews of episodes to come. See you again soon.